Hey everyone, welcome back to DCC Workbench for part 8 and the final episode of the Santa Fe Locomotive upgrade. We got a ton to cover today, so let's not waste any time. But first, a quick update. I noticed many of you heading over to Trainroster.com and really putting those model railroad tools to work. Speaking of tools, we're developing even more, including a brand new model railroad database. As always, these are completely free to support the community. If you enjoyed watching this build series, subscribe, click the notify bell, and share the video with your fellow model railroaders. Just wait until you see what the next series is. I think you're gonna like it. Alright, let's get into the final episode. It's time for part 8. Do you remember the ground LED lights that we installed back in part 2? What kind of model railroader would I be if I didn't install a light housing to go with those lights? But before we get into that, let's do a little time travel to recap the LED install. Start out with a quick overall inspection of the unit to evaluate the best approach for installing the ground lights. I would also like to point out that there's a very nice factory channel available to use. I'm going to start with drilling a small hole in the sill on the engineer's side. I shift over to the conductor's sill. This one takes patience. I'm going to start the drilling on the floorboard on the engineer's side. Bit of upward pressure on the floorboard while I'm drilling. It's time to mount the LEDs, feeding the wires through the sill and then up through the floorboard. Now I'll glue around the wires on both the top and bottom of the sill and floor plate. So we have some good news and some bad news. Do you want the bad news first? No therapy shopping today. Both LEDs are working great. Next, I'm installing a Details West SL172 light housing on each side of the cab. The package contains 8 pieces. Thankfully, Athearn installed a light housing on each of the 4 stair ladders, so we don't have to do anything with those. I'm going to drill a hole on both sides of the locomotive. As usual, I'm not sure of the drill bit size, but I just make sure the hole is smaller than the head of the LED. That way the LED doesn't slip through. I'm being very careful not to apply too much downward force where a slip can break something. Next, I'm grabbing one of the light housing to test the fit. As long as the hole is smaller than the housing head, you're good. The test fit looks good, so I'm applying some Canopy glue. I'm a firm believer that less is more. Canopy glue is fast drying. As it sets up, you can arrange the vertical and horizontal alignment pretty easy. I glued the other side off camera. Now that the glue is dried, I do a final inspection. I think the light housing looks pretty good. Now that the light housing is installed, I'll go ahead and slip the shell on. I'm looking to see if the shell installs with ease. Remember, that's one of my goals. Notice the wires are not bunching or being pulled. They're trimmed and they curl with the shell closing. Here I'll check the overall fit of the frame and the alignment of the shell and all the widgets that go with it. There's only the factory gap between the shell and the frame. All looks good. We're on the home stretch. So it's coupler time. For those of you who aren't too familiar with the anatomy of model train couplers, they consist of only a few parts. There's the draft gearbox, the rectangle piece that houses the actual coupler. The draft gearbox has two pieces, a top and a bottom. Then there's the actual knuckle coupler itself. Then lastly, a screw that inserts through a hole through the coupler and through the draft gearbox. And that's it. Many models, including this one from Athearn, factory installs plastic couplers. I'm not a fan of those. So today I'll be installing an aftermarket Kadee 148 in the front and the rear of the locomotive. They're made of metal with small little whiskers that auto-center the coupler in the draft gearbox. Disassembling the draft gearbox is simple. Just split the two halves. The factory Athearn couplers come with a metal centering spring that is not needed with the couplers we're using, so I'll just put that in my parts bin. I'll put the new Kadee coupler in the draft gearbox for a test fit. The coupler is sticking, so this is very common. I'll pop it back out and do a little filing. These couplers are a great tight fit, so I have to use some finesse to separate them. This is the area of the coupler that usually is the cause of the sticking. As I'm filing, I'm making sure that I stay away from the whiskers and the glue that holds them to the coupler. They can easily be broken. I highly caution to use slow, methodical draws in the file with gentle pressure. Actually, I find just the mere weight of the file itself being just too much sometimes. You can see that the faint filing pulled a lot of material as demonstrated by the shiny metal that is now exposed on the coupler. I'm going to flip the coupler over to take some material off of another place that typically causes decentering snags. I'm basically just polishing this area. Just small, easy bowing, aircraft touchdowns and liftoffs, keeping my eye on the material and away from the whiskers and the glue that holds it. That's much better. The snag is gone and the coupler is recentering itself perfectly. If you've seen any of my review videos, I always check the coupler height and standards. Make sure that when you test these, you must have a firm base that does not flex or you'll get false readings. Here the front coupler looks really good. That goes the same for the rear coupler. Perfect. Sometimes you may need to bend those low-hanging trip pins you see here. They hang low and cause all sorts of problems like derailments and turnout issues. This is a Kadee 237 trip pin coupler plier. They bend coupler trip pins. More on this tool and other model railroad tools in an upcoming video. Also, check out Trainroster.com. Now I think that all the trimmings and fixings are done, but that does not mean it's so. In the technology world, we call this UAT, or user acceptance testing, or some of us old timers call it user authorized testing. What this means is I think the locomotive is complete, but can I prove it? How will I go about proving it? In the Trainroster Proving Grounds. I'm going to put this locomotive through its paces. I'm going to check for sound quality, mechanical and digital functions, fit, and of course, track operations. First up, let's check the sound and the lights. For the sound, I'm going to check the sound of the prime mover from idle to notch 8, notch 8 to wind down to idle, the bell and horn and coupler. The coupler has a dynamic range that registers well with the sound meter. I also want to add that for notches 1, 2, and 3, I did edit the sound file to ramp up the sound to emulate load. By default, ESU has the sound ramping for these notches equal through all 8 notches. This is not realistic, as the locomotive in itself does have load. The air sounds you'll hear are also closely matched both in type and timing to a similar SD75 I recorded years ago. So the sound you will hear will be different and more authentic from the default sounds of Loc and all other decoders, including Soundtracks, TCS, and Digitrax. I think the sound test went well. There are many sound and light adjustments that go into all Trainroster's locomotives. The last sound test will be conducted with track operations, with consisting with freight loads a little later. Now on to the lighting tests. I'm verifying that all the LEDs are functioning correctly. They should have no flickering, have similar brightness levels to my liking, which could be different than the prototype. What is that saying? Something like, my model railroad, my rules, right? I will also check that the lights activate to the proper configured function keys that were programmed in an upcoming video. Again, to my liking. The brightness will also be matched to Trainroster's master locomotive, as discussed earlier. I do not want some locomotives having a large difference in brightness than the others. Without further ado, let's fire up those lights. On to the operations tests. Here I'll test stall speed, creep, flickering lights for power draw, generate test sounds to see if there are power irregularities, then gradually amp up the speeds and loads, finishing with consisting with the master locomotive with freight. The locomotive passed all the tests. It made the roster. These are the clips from those tests. I speed matched this locomotive both forward and reverse with the Trainroster master locomotive. The master locomotive is a fully functional unit. This locomotive is not ran in operation. It serves only for speed matching purposes, and I regularly maintain it. If you would like to see how I speed match and keep the entire Trainroster fleet running at the peak, stay tuned to the channel. I have a multi-part series coming up on these topics. This series does come with a warning. It is highly technical and effective, and Canopy will be assisting. Okay, that's a wrap for part 8 and well, the entire series. I'm honestly not sure if I should celebrate or just immediately go and recover. Before I close this series, I first want to throw a shout out to Canopy. There you are. I just want to say that I thought you did a great... Okay, wait a minute. What are you wearing? No, I'm not calling you King anything. Oh no, don't you start that contract stuff. I know for a fact there is no mention of King anywhere in there. Look, let's just appreciate our first series completion, okay? Anyways, this was the very first build series I have done for the channel. Not just a 3 or 4 part series, oh no, but an 8 part. What am I thinking? Well, I had some truly great experiences. And I also encountered an abundance of learning curves. Modeling is one thing, but video creation and modeling is an entirely different world. I have gained a vast amount of respect for all my fellow modelers who partake in the video creation for the community. The amount of additional expertise that's needed just to execute the most basic things, like installing a coupler that is both far away from you and at the weirdest possible angles. Also, you, the viewer, can see it. Basically, the better you can see it through your screen, the equally harder it is for us modelers who film it. And with all of that said, I did it again. I just got done filming another series using everything we did here. And Atherin GP38-2 just went through the entire upgrade process. It might make one wonder. If you enjoyed this build and are questioning your life choices thanks to model railroading, you can support the channel by subscribing and sharing. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you're alerted for the brand new video series coming up. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy railroading.